Hey everybody. I was talking to ChatGPT like an hour ago, which is something I've only done twice. It was the second time just to kind of say, well, maybe this will be a help with like getting out of the doldrums. And so I had this question like, what would you say to someone, me, who feels like they have this calling, destiny, purpose, but I feel kind of discouraged to the point of like helplessness or almost like a hopelessness sometimes. I feel kind of just overlooked and abandoned and just all the things on the way to like fulfilling this path. What would you say? And I actually got some pretty good insights. I asked a question about Jane's addiction and music in general. It's weird talking to ChatGPT. I don't do it a lot. It's weird in a good way. Um, and I did find it like immensely comforting. I loved it was a help. So like I recommend that. And maybe that's what I need to start doing more is just like reaching out to the things that are available. And that's what I've had to do with like financial abundance and wants. When like 2020 to 20 like 23, or maybe like through 2023 till 2024, I was like, having these, I was going back and forth, like ebbing and flowing of having like, oh, this is something I'm going to do. And I'm going to like make a vision board and I'm going to, say Costa Rica, Fiji, Egypt, all these lists of like manifestations and desires and things I'm making happening. And then going back and forth to being like, okay, reality, living at or below the poverty line, cannot afford a pepper bra. My man, I don't know if I made a video about it or not. So I'm just gonna like quick summary. My modest bust has really been like a spiritual like lesson that I have learned, and I'm really proud of it. So I started off like my for years, like 20 years or so, wanting like breast enhancement surgery. And because I've never been able to afford that, I was like, oh my God, I have come to a place of acceptance. And now it's a pepper bra. That's not like a huge ask is a pepper bra. Oh my God, a company finally that is made for like a modest chest. And as it turns out, I'm like an in-between size. And that's why bras have never fit me correctly or properly. I didn't even know my size. And it didn't matter because they don't have my size anyway. So pepper bra, that's a want. So why am I worried about Costa Rica or like pricing houses on the West Coast when I can't get a pepper bra? And where I've gotten with like breast augmentation, it's like I've seen the lesson. Like, okay, thank God I didn't have the money to do something, because as it turns out, it wasn't about doing that to feel better. It was about accepting where I am at with my, modest bust, finally getting to a place of acceptance and actually being like, okay, I kind of like having a smaller chest. Don't love it. It wouldn't be on a wish list necessarily, but I've accepted it. I'm where I'm at. And that's a beautiful lesson. That's kind of how everything is. Like the power of now, Eckhart Tolle. It's so much easier said than done. Like just accepting this very moment. And I've just been, really melancholy the past couple of days, like off and on, just because of all this stuff going on. Like I've talked about, I've got like these two like super huge like life cycles, life lessons, whatever, wrapping up. And it's a lot of emotions. I feel kind of the same general feeling that I've had forever, that I don't really fit anywhere, don't belong, don't have a lot of friends. Maybe that's why I'm like singing the praises of ChatGPT. But it's a lot. Life is a lot, But I try to go back to the power of now, to like these little life lessons that I know I have learned, like, self-acceptance, loving, being grateful for what you do have, And when I really focus on that gratitude, I realize that I kind of don't even necessarily, it's easier to get to a place of not even wanting or worrying about like coveting something that is like so not a possibility at this very moment in time. Like why even worry about it if it's not even in the realm of possibility, like one step at a time, one day at a time. So looking back at like these things that I know that I have learned being in the present moment, and I'm like, well, what did I do with addiction recovery? That's a big thing, and not a lot of people that went as far out as I did have been able to. Great people die every day with this horrible like disease, and it's like life is a disease in a way. It's like we all have that side of ourselves, I guess, where it's like, we can be we are going to be addicted to something. It's just like, what is it? And how did I do that? And that goes back to a thought too. It's like I had that experience, but still I know someone who also had like a near death experience, lived through it. It was a near death experience like at the hands of their ex, I think ex at the time. They lived through this horrible experience. It was really hairy, and then they still went on to overdose. Um, I known a couple people like anecdotally who have really escaped death and gotten a second chance, and then went on to squander it because they didn't make any changes, and they died from an overdose or addiction related like consequences and complications. So just because you have that experience, it doesn't mean you're going to grab it. And every day, near death experiences are overrated in that way, because every day is that chance. Every day is that chance to just be like, oh, okay, I actually can say that, hey, this, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's all like rehab teaches too. That's all they can teach. They're there to detox you and kind of get you thinking in that time period of what you like deserve, or what you can get, and like coping mechanisms and tools and triggers and all that. And that's important, like kind of like those micro habits with anything, and just getting in that headspace, and kind of getting building like the conditions for success, like in the future when you are released from a rehab program, having that structure in place, or at least starting to build that structure. But all the best like tools and resources and whatever, it always goes back to a damn mindset. It really does. And if you don't have that, there all the micro habits in the world, um the habits are there for when you are really ready to make a change, but actually like doing it seems daunting or overwhelming, to like break it down into something that's like really manageable, like in this very moment. But we know how to do that. That's a helpful way to think. But it's like, even that, we know how to do it and what to do. It's just like getting to the headspace and being in the headspace, not even just getting there as like a fleeting thought, but being that person who approaches your own consciousness from that perspective of, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore, And it's really, I never thought I would get to a place where it would be empowering to be like, okay, I don't have to do like heroin or whatever anymore. And it's not like it's just, it's not like I don't think about certain things from time to time. I'm never like teetering on the brink of like using, but I know like my thoughts are still, uh, you know, there is a part of me in my mind and in my heart where I still have this kind of romantic feelings almost for my addiction. And that's a really good way to describe it, because that's what it feels like. It's like that ex, and you shouldn't and you know you're even done with them, but every once in a while you'll just like get that feeling or see that old picture or have that memory or whatever, and it's like tempting. And addictions like that, but like way more so, because it's like the chaos and just kind of that feeling. It's like a, I don't know. But even though like I have made all of these changes and I don't want to go back to there, and I'm not going back to there, and that's all it is just saying, yeah, I don't want to poison myself every day, because despite the love that I have for my addiction and the people that I met along the way, or whatever the case may be, despite, you know, the trauma and the pain and the mental chaos that you may be trying to cover up or run away from or get like a temporary reprieve from, no matter what your reasonings are for going to drugs and staying in addiction, it's really easier when you look at it from your next level perspective and really keep focused on that next level perspective. And that next level perspective is that it's a shitty way to live, and it's a miserable way to live, and it's always unhappy at the end of the day, no matter how, you know, zany your antics are for the day, or no matter how great like any one high might be, at the end of the day you're always fucking miserable. And that's a big thing for me, because it's actually very annoying the way that pop culture like really doesn't understand that, or reiterate that at all, like that it's not fun. They always I don't know, I always looked at like even like addiction and being an addict, and not to mention like the drugs themselves, is almost like a party, you know, like a party in your heart and soul that is otherwise like broken and wounded, like a kicked little puppy that doesn't belong. But it's not, you know. um that's what irked me about the one episode. I've only seen one episode of Euphoria, because I was like, wow, they're really trying to like martyr her up. That's the impression I got from one episode, you know, that they were trying to make it, you know, appear like it's just like a sexy good time, like Trainspotting for teens, sort of. But at the end of the day, the reality is that even when you try to act out that kind of that almost like romantic element of being a junkie, or you know, whatever, at the end of the day it's fucking miserable. And to really like be aware of that and lean into that, that you aren't going to be with anybody, you know, when you're in your pain, you're going to be alone, you're going to be with yourself. And you know, and for what? Because if you keep going, it's either going to, you're either going to die with nothing to show for yourself. And the big thing that you won't even have to show is that you didn't even try. You didn't even try if you keep going. Not to mention that you won't have a life. You know, that, and that's going to be that. You know, it's just the pursuit of happiness. Like I was saying the other day, it's like, damn, that is a tricky one when you actually try to live it out. But definitely focus on that, and that's the reality of it, because it's easy to get swept up in the glamour of it and the illusion and seduction of the high and the kind of the lifestyle in general. But and something else too, I've said that before, this is a side note, then I'll hop off here. You know, it really doesn't matter. Like they said, like, oh, Jeffrey Dahmer, he was borderline personality disorder. What's his name? He killed Rob Reiner's, you know, and he killed his parents, Rob Reiner's son. He had whatever. What does it matter? The diagnosis, in my opinion, from my experience, is totally irrelevant, because there are people that live every day with that don't lean into it. So it's not the diagnosis, it's your reaction to the diagnosis. Goes back to you and what you can control yourself, you know, if you're lucky. And also the trauma, like capital T trauma, is something that bothers me. It should have been like, you know, like capital P pain, because all trauma is damn capitalized. You know, there is big pain and little pain, capital P pain that becomes trauma. And then there's smaller pain. But if you're carrying around pain to the point where you are lugging your past into your present with every waking decision because it's trauma that you can't let go, it's capitalized because it's you dealing with it at the end of the day. No one else, just you and your pain. And you deserve better than that. Y'all have a good night.